Hey guys, Karl here. Looks like I got a phone call from Daven, so let me go ahead and take it. What's up, Daven? Cool. You ready? Awesome. All right, guys, I was Daven Michaels, and guess what? We're gonna go interview him right now. I somehow amazingly was able to catch him, so now I can go and actually maybe get some secrets for you guys. So pretty excited about this. This is Karl Schickert with sharkbites.tv or podcast. Hey guys, Karl the Shark Schickert here, sharkbites.tv, and I've got a special guest for you. Pretty phenomenal person, New York Times bestseller and CEO and founder of 123EMPLOYEE, and he helps many businesses achieve next levels of success, works with many top level people. I'm just actually very excited to even have him here. We had an opportunity to hang out in Vegas. We've hung out in Georgia even.
Yep.
And just a really cool, phenomenal person with an amazing background. And I wanted to actually get an opportunity to introduce him to you guys as well if you haven't had a chance to meet Daven Michaels. So Daven, again, thank you so much for taking some time and
of course.
Allowing us to come in here into your domain here. Las Vegas is one of your domains.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good. So I wanted to ask you some questions, maybe even, ask maybe some personal questions.
Sure.
Even, if you don't mind. Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to start somewhere. And, where was your first start? What was something that happened that might have been pivotal in your life that just made you think bigger and take those success steps in the right direction?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Karl. I started my business when I was 15. I graduated high school 2 years early, and I started college at 15, and not because I was bright, it was because I hated high school. And I really felt like I was ready to embark on an entrepreneurial journey. Now, during that time, I was an only child. I didn't come with an instruction book, and so my parents kind of let me do whatever the heck I wanted to do. Some of the ideas were stupid, a few of them, were decent ideas. And what happened was I graduated high school early, and my parents really wanted me to go to college, and I didn't really have an interest in college. I wanted to start my entrepreneurial career, but they won, and so I went to the local college, and I was very fortunate because today, if you want to be in an entrepreneurship program, there's a billion of them, right? Every school's got tons of them. But back in my day, there were no entrepreneurship programs. You could get a business degree, but no emphasis in entrepreneurship. But I was very fortunate. There were two gentlemen that were maverick entrepreneurs. They started their business, I guess, in the 50s, and in the 60s and in the 70s, they had some great success. They were actually the first guys to ever put an offer on a box of cereal, and they made millions just from that alone. And so they were super successful. They made a ton of money, and they were retired. No, they were just entrepreneurs. Yeah, these two gentlemen, and they were retired. They'd made a lot of money, and they were done. And they got bored, and so they decided to go back to school and teach a one-year immersion class on entrepreneurship. And I was in that class, and I was just a kid, and they took me under their wing, and I learned a lot from them. But I have to tell you, most of what I learned was from the School of Hard Knocks. I learned from doing, right, as so many do. But what they did teach me was that it was possible. And at such a young age, I felt like it was possible, but I didn't really know it was possible. But they, showed me that, you could do this. These crazy ideas were actually doable. And they inspired me. And within a year, my business took off, and I ended up dropping out of college. I'm a college dropout. But luckily, things worked out. But I always say that if I wasn't running a big company, I'd be flipping burgers, because that's pretty much what I'm qualified to do on paper, at least. So.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, probably not.
But that's amazing, right? So you had an entrepreneurial mind as a young child, but your family was conditioned not to go to school, get a good job, retire.
Yeah, and by the way, my dad was a company man. He worked for the same company for 40 years, and he never made more than $30,000 a year, and we lived off of that as a family. My mom didn't work, so and so it was. I think. Probably one of the reasons. There were several reasons why I became an entrepreneur, but one was seeing my dad. I wanted more, and I felt like my dad made such huge sacrifices for us. He was an amazing man. He was my earliest mentor, and I just wanted more. And actually, there was something else that made me really hungry. My Uncle Mo was the wisest man I ever knew. So my dad really inspired me, My Uncle Mo did as well. He was the wisest man I ever knew. And he was the son of a junkyard dealer. So, I mean, that's pretty poor. He grew up dirt poor. He was one of 11 children, okay? And he grew up to become a prolific doctor, a famous Beverly Hills doctor. And so on our holidays, we would drive up. We lived in Orange County, California. On the holidays, we would drive up to Beverly Hills, and I would hang out in his beautiful house and see his beautiful cars, and all my cousins had these beautiful toys, and then we'd go back to our life. And then on the next holiday, we come back, and I have the beautiful life, and then we go back to my life. And so all my friends never had that. So I think they never got hungry. But at a young age, I got an angst. I got a hunger to really achieve. I wanted stuff. And, you know, everything that happens to us serves us, right? I mean, for me, it gave me this drive to succeed. And although today, you know, there was a time when I never really took inventory of what I had and never really stepped back and kind of lived in a state of gratitude and kind of audited my life and became grateful for what I had. There was a time when I didn't do all that. Today I do, but it's still, there's this certain part of me that's never quite satisfied, and it's almost intentional. But that's what forces me to achieve. So, you know, 90% of me is like super psyched. I love my life. I can't believe I've got what I've got. I can't believe I get paid to do what I do. I'm very grateful and very humbled. But then there's that 10% that's like never satisfied. But I know it serves me. It makes me move forward.
Happy but not satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, we grow through adversity, right? We don't grow when we're just coasting. So you got to keep a little bit of that going.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. So your uncle was your first mentor.
Second mentor. My dad was number. Yeah, my dad was number one. My dad was a mentor not for the reasons you might think. He wasn't a wealthy man. He wasn't a scholar. He was a very simple man. He was the type of guy that got up in the morning, planted his feet on the ground, and was just grateful to be alive. He lived in a state of gratitude before it was in vogue, before The Secret, right? And me, I was much more complicated than that. I always thought that I was the cool guy. And it really wasn't until my dad passed away that I realized how much of him was in me. And I actually have a term for that, and I've written a book series around it, and I call those lessons from beyond. Lessons that pass on to us long after that person that was in our life passed away. And so there's a book series that I author called Lessons from Beyond. There's a TV show that's already been shot around it, and we're just very late releasing it. I have 4 books actually that I've written, and a 5th in the works that have not been released yet. And that's just because when we release a book, there's such a huge marketing push. It requires all our resources as a company, and it's something we can't do on a daily basis. So at some point we'll get these books out there and change some more lives.
So those are some of the next things that are going to be happening.
They are some of the next things. Yeah. Probably next year.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
cool.
I think so.
Cool. It's the time, right? It's gonna.
I think so.
All right, so let's fast forward a little bit in your life. So we've got your childhood your mentor, your father, and your uncle.
Yeah.
Uncle kind of gave you like a taste, but you couldn't have.
He did.
You know,
he
there's
really
a taste.
did. He got me hungry.
Got you hungry.
Yeah.
Like it was a little
unintentionally.
spoonful. Unintentionally.
Yeah, unintentionally.
But you knew that's what you wanted.
Yeah.
That's something you want to be.
And you know, probably somewhat intentionally too, because he really programmed me. My uncle was so brilliant, and not only was he a scholar, but there was something special about him that he channeled from above. I can't explain it, but everybody followed him. Everybody literally listened to every word that came out of his mouth. You know, like it was like, you know, I don't know, a message from God or something. Yeah, he did. And so everything he told me to do, I always did without question, because he was so damn smart. And one of the things he told me when I was very young is he said, you should start a business. And I think I was 17 when he said, I mean, I kind of started things, but at 17, he told me, he said, listen, he said, there's a bunch of rich doctors and lawyers in Beverly Hills that don't have the time or the inclination or the know-how to dress themselves. And I was in the clothing business at the time. I was in retail. I was the youngest assistant manager for Bullock's Wilshire, which is now Macy's, okay? And he said, these guys need somebody to do the shopping for them and match their clothes together, and they just don't want to do it, and they'll pay you a lot of money to do it. So I started a company. That was my first business. And later that morphed into my first clothing store when I started my own clothing line, and which I'm not in that business anymore, but that was my first business.
Wow. Did not know that.
Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting. So yeah, I mean, that's amazing how you can feed children too. Just it makes me think of it, that you could feed children ideas of possibilities, and that you can make them once an idea turns into a possibility, it becomes real. And
and some of them will stick and others won't, right? I know for me there were so many things that my family told me that they knew because they had been around, right? They had the knowledge from knowing from time, right? And a lot of things I didn't listen to because you have to figure that out for yourself, right? And sometimes you have to fall on your butt and figure it out. But some of the stuff stuck, especially what my Uncle Mo shared with me.
Very cool. So let's go forward a little bit more in your life. Obviously, like there's failures, there's triumphs and losses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to go forward into some of your bigger breakthroughs, but before I do that, what were some of the things you've learned maybe out of some of your failures?
Yeah, I'll tell you something. I have the biggest company today that I've ever had. We have hundreds and hundreds of employees, and we take in a lot of money, and we affect a lot of people's lives, and we employ a ton of people. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. But as you get a bigger company, you realize that you're not going to lose it. You're going to make more money. You're not going to be poor again, right? That kind of thing. Well, let me tell you something. You never know. About 2 years ago, we had a huge catastrophe in our business. As a company, you start to grow and you want to take it to the next level, right? And usually as a company, the way you do that, and this is not always the case, but usually you bring on somebody that has been there already. Like we wanted to jump to like a $50 million company. So we brought on a sales VP that had done it before. And we brought on about 35 new employees. We utilized their methodology, and it was a failure. Okay, it didn't work. It didn't match. It was counterintuitive to our company's culture, and as a result, we lost a lot of clients, and I lost a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was very challenging. I didn't think that I would have to deal with this at this point in my life, right? And so what it did was it forced us as a company to innovate, and everybody pulled together. And 24 months later, this will be our biggest year ever. And not just like biggest by 20% or 30%, but well over 100%, maybe 100 to 200%.
Wow.
And like I said earlier, we don't really grow when we're coasting. That takes a lot more work to grow when you're coasting, right? But in the face of adversity, you have no choice but to innovate. And that's what we did. The whole team stepped up, and that's kind of really where you learn, who your best people are, and where you discover who you are as a company and what you're capable of doing. And it's funny looking back at that. I'm so grateful, but that was a serious failure in my business. Serious failure, type of failure I hadn't seen in decades. It was big.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the biggest lesson you think out of that?
The biggest lesson. Okay, so when you bring on, you tend to bring on people that have been places you want to go, right? I think that works, and sometimes it doesn't work. And what I learned is that as a management team, I think we're a lot more capable than I thought we were. Now, I always thought that we were pretty dang cool, but I think that we're really capable of bringing our company to exactly where we want it to go.
Well, you mentioned innovation.
Yeah.
That innovation it reminds me of like companies that failed and went out of business because they didn't innovate with time. Failed to innovate. So that seemed like it was very pivotal, and maybe even the blessing in disguise for the company.
It was absolutely a blessing in disguise, and I think that we have the ability with our core management team and maybe a few more people to take it to $100 million, to be a $100 million company. And I didn't think that before. Now we may have to bring on some contractors along the way, but we're certainly not going to give them the kind of control that we did back then. So yeah, I think we can do it. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool. So what are you currently working on right now?
Got a couple of exciting things, but the most exciting thing is, when we started the business nearly a decade ago, our niche was outsourcing for small businesses. Today we work with small and medium-sized businesses, but really the core of our business has been small business. And when we got into the business 9 years ago, to be exact, entrepreneurs knew nothing about outsourcing. The big companies were doing it, like American Express, but small companies knew nothing about outsourcing, nor did they think that they needed to outsource. And so we realized early on, if we wanted to have a market, we would have to somehow build out that market. And we figured out a way. We decided to adopt an educational model. And so I began writing books, and eventually hit New York Times. And then we started creating info products. I started speaking on stages. We started doing events all over the world. And everything we do led into 123EMPLOYEE. And today we still use that educational model. And so those are several of the channels that bring us business, but more recently we got into the software business. So 2 years ago we started developing software. We built a dev team, just a small one, and most of the software that we created was either for just kind of small internal things and or for our team. But more recently, we have a first kind of widespread release. So next year, we release Social Sonic, which we're billing as the world's first social media CRM, and it'll be in a SaaS model. But coming up in November, we're doing something very special. We're doing hundreds of webinars with all our partners, and we're having a special program where we're going to have a lifetime license of Social Sonic with a virtual assistant to run it for them.
Wow.
And if they have a business, they're good to go. If they don't have a business, we give them 20 pre-populated blogs with affiliate offers built in. And I think that we have the potential to make it the biggest launch of this year.
Wow.
And so I'm very excited. It's a lot of work. Oh my God, it's so much work. And we're about 30 days out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Good time to be. Very exciting. And tell you've worked very hard on it too.
We have worked very hard.
But it sounds like a really incredible program.
Yeah.
We're creating leads for small to medium-sized businesses. And
I've learned over the years that I believe. Matter of fact, I'll share with you my market research. So I have the privilege of speaking on stages all over the globe to entrepreneurs just like you and I and you, and if you're listening to this, and I always ask entrepreneurs questions. I'm a naturally inquisitive person. I love people. It's a trait that I got from my dad. He loved people that loved him right back. And so I always ask entrepreneurs, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in your business today? And although I always receive a myriad of different responses, it always comes down to two. Would you like to know what they are?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So what do you think number one is? Any guess?
Capital.
Capital. Okay, yes. So capital is usually number 3.
Okay.
Number 2 is leads, and number 1 is time.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
Okay.
I would have thought it would have been leads or business coming through the door. Because if you don't have business coming through the door, you're out of business, right?
Sure.
But no, entrepreneurs, they all say time. I need
Yeah.
more time. I need more time. Time is that one precious commodity none of us can buy. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can't leverage and get more unless you outsource. So yes. So I believe that leads is the lifeblood of all business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you can dial in your marketing, if you have a ton of business flowing through the door, if your bank accounts are overflowing with money, then you can probably buy yourself out of just about any challenge you may face in your business, right? You can find somebody to help you out, right? Yeah. And so, that's always our focus. And Social Sonic is just one of the many tools that we've created to generate literally unlimited leads. And we feel that's been my mission, for the last decade, is to really empower entrepreneurs, show them how to generate more business, but then once they understand it, show them how to leverage it, outsource it so they can focus on the income generating activities in their business and the things that really juice them and excite them.
Are there certain niches that you mainly focus on for that, or
we really don't?
Or doesn't really matter? It's just the need for a lead.
Yeah, we really don't. We're all over the
option.
board. I will tell you that a lot of our client base, we do have a high concentration of authors, speakers, consultants, small mom and pop businesses, but we can service just about any business.
Cool, very cool.
Yeah,
very interesting. Well, anything else too? Is there anything you want to bring out, that you'd like to tell our folks? Something that, I don't know, like could help them for the day or help them for life, or like maybe some life lessons or something like that?
Sure. Well, a few probably. If you currently have a business, so many businesses don't realize that marketing is the lifeblood of their business. I don't know how that can happen. I meet people all the time that spend $100,000 to open a storefront and then neglected to budget a penny.
If you build it, they'll come.
Yeah, and neglected to budget a penny for marketing. It's like, that's just pure insanity. So certainly, think about marketing. Matter of fact, that's all you should really be thinking about. The rest can be figured out. Let's see, what else would I tell you? If there's somewhere you want to go, find a mentor. Latch onto them and let them pull you through. I always say if there's a shortcut, I'll always figure out the shortcut. I even shortcutted my kids. I didn't have kids. All my friends started having kids. One day I met my girl. She came with 2. And so I never changed diapers. I shortcutted that too. I can shortcut anything. And that's kind of what I am as a growth hacker, right? And as you are too, I know. And so, I found that no matter where you want to go, no matter how innovative you think you are, there's always somebody that has walked that path before you. So why not just align yourself with them, give them some value, help them out with something, and they'll help you and show you how they did it. So that is certainly a shortcut. And if you're looking to start something new, what I would highly suggest is, so many entrepreneurs have the shiny bright object syndrome, right? So you chase one thing and then the next thing and the next thing. And I never meet an entrepreneur that doesn't have more than 14 businesses, okay? How is it possible to run 14 businesses successfully unless you have millions and millions of dollars? So listen, focus on one thing. Just focus on one thing. If you have to focus on more, focus on two. But really, focus on one thing, and that's where you will see the fruits of your labor. I mean, I do a lot of different things, but everything is really focused on my outsourcing company these days, and for the last decade. And we've had momentous growth as a result. And finally, if you're looking to start something new, and even if you currently have something, that is, don't quit. The only way you succeed is by not quitting. I'm a success story only because I fell on my ass a million times, and you ask anybody else that's been successful, they failed their way to success. So, the only way you're going to fail is if you stop, right? Otherwise, you're going to eventually figure it out. So that's my words of wisdom for whatever it's worth.
Awesome. That was tons of stuff right there.
Happy to help.
Definitely internalize that. Even some of that I think was maybe good for me too.
Cool. Yeah, it was good for me just saying it. So
yeah, so definitely I really appreciate you coming on and showing some support for our little channel here.
Yeah,
and
my pleasure.
I apprete everything you're doing, and I look at you as a mentor as well.
Yeah, me as well, buddy. Thank you.
And that's all the stuff that he said. Just take that advice, run with it. I've done it myself. I've done some of these things myself. I have a mentor. Yeah. I've had multiple mentors in life. Yeah. I've failed a million times. It's just one of those. It's one of those things. You start to not even look at failure as failure. It's just part of it.
Well,
part
also,
of
one more thing too to say is that failure today is so different. Like, I remember, in my day, I'm an old guy, and when I started all my businesses in the early days, they all required brick and mortar, okay? Yeah. You had to get a storefront, you had to build it out, you took massive, massive risk, and when you blew it, you paid the price. Today, what do? You throw an offer up on and I have one more, I gotta share one more wisdom. Okay, so if you're creating a product or something, test the concept before you create the product, right? I mean, I meet people that spend 3 years developing a product because they want it and nobody else wants it. And God, me too. And what a letdown that is. Today you could throw something up on the internet, see if it sells, then refund the money, and then you got a product, or make it fast enough to fulfill whatever. It's just totally different. So your failures can be small. Not like the big, people don't even understand the failures that we used to have to take, even as small business people. So it's a wonderful time to be in business today. There's more competition than ever because of that, because it's so easy. The barrier to entrance is so much lower. But I would rather have the competition, which keeps you on your feet, than have that barrier to entry and that high level of risk. So, that's
awesome.
Last of my words of wisdom.
Yeah, no, awesome. so many good nuggets there. So much wisdom right there.
Thanks, man.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and can't wait to continue to see where you take your business to the next level. It's already at a high level already, but to continue to watch it grow is just phenomenal and proves that it can be done. So again, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, brother. Thanks for the time.
All right, guys, this is Karl the Shark Shooker. Thanks for joining us here at sharkbites.tv or on our podcast. Other than that, keep tuning in, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.